Check, check. I'm just getting the sound set up. I'm waiting for Mike.
All right, we did it.
Wow. Yeah. It's I'm not even going to tell you the technical error that I figured out.
No worries.
It's good to do it for the first time on this because the next time we do it's going to be good. Plus, I think they're going to have the screen audio stuff upgraded. But yeah, this should be a smoother format going forward than Zoom, I believe, for multiple reasons. But hey, how you doing? We're here. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, how are you? Do a little.
Doing great. Yeah, nice to see you again. I'm actually going to be out in Boulder on Thursday. So.
Oh, you're coming here. That's your
Thursday
plan.
Night, yeah.
Yeah, we were going to do this Thursday. Remember?
Yeah, I know. I don't think I get there in time. So
no, all good. Yeah, that would have been funny. We could have done it in person. But yeah, this is good. I get 2 for 1 because I'm combining both classes. So we've got I guess 40 people as of now concurrent. And yeah, like I said, you can screen share, but we can't do the audio.
Yeah, no worries. Got it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, let me see how.
Sure.
Let me see how I sharing this here. Give me.
Do you have a share screen on the?
Oh yeah. No, I do. I'm just trying to.
Hello, everybody. I know you can. Can people chat? Somebody test the chat, other than me.
Aha. All right. Good.
Joseph Folger chimed in, so our chat's going good. All right, sweet.
All right.
Pick it.
Cool. Well, Evan, you said you had 2 classes today. Can you tell me what they are? Or
we've got the history of sports journalism, and we've got the usual one you're in, which is the sports media 2 credit sports media practices type class. So it's a little bit hybrid, but it overlaps absolutely. Like with yeah.
So what Evan asked me to talk about today is something that I really enjoy talking about, which is sports technology or the technology in live sports broadcasting. And I think that regardless of which class you're in, this should be interesting to you, even if it's just a curiosity. So I was thinking that I was going to do about 30 minutes or so, and then I'll stop down and hopefully we get some questions. So if you have any questions, just save them for the end, and happy to go back and talk to you about all this. I did not put in my LinkedIn, but I'm easy to find. Feel free to connect with me, and I
can grab it while you're chatting. I can grab it while you're chatting and put it in the
chat. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, this is me. I'm Mike. I've done this for this will be my 30th year. I worked at HBO Sports for 10 years, and then moved on to Fox Sports. That's where I am now. And my title, as it says, is working with a team that does the field and technical operations for Fox. And what that means is that the people that work with me are the people who do all the operations, the cogs in the wheels. If it, gets turned on, or it arrives to site, or if it, does something technical that's under my purview. We do everything from the smallest 4-camera basketball show to the World Cup, and everything in between. And doing this for 20 years has been the fantastic vehicle where I've been able to travel the country, travel the world, and do some really, really cool stuff. But most importantly, I've met some incredible people. I graduated from the University of Colorado in 1994. At the time, for what it's worth, I didn't have any idea that I was going to be doing this, even though I graduated in broadcast production management. And I only did that because at the time, it literally had the fewest requirements. And joke's on me, I've been doing it for 30 years. I work with producers, directors, talent, camera people, operations people, crewing people, transmission engineers, etc., to get this all done. So that's me. And again, happy to connect with you guys afterwards. If you have any questions or interested about the business, Evan can tell you that I've got a real passion for helping people out, particularly my fellow buffs, in terms of cracking the code to getting in this industry, whatever it is that you're into. So for you history people, I thought I would start with a little bit of history about Fox Sports. Most of you, if not every single one of you, don't really remember much of a world before Fox Sports. At the time, in 1993, there were but 3 networks in terms of broadcast networks. There was ABC and NBC and CBS. ESPN had come out, maybe a couple of other regional sports networks like Prime Ticket and some of the other ones. But for the most part, the big 3 ruled the roost in terms of sports, and they were in charge of what you saw and heard. And people liked it because they didn't know there was any alternative. In 1993, and with the starting in 1994, Rupert Murdoch came in and bought the rights to the NFL for $1.9 billion for 5 years, which seemed like an astonishing amount at the time. But just flash forward to today, the networks together are paying the NFL $10 billion a year. So at the time, you can imagine that he got a pretty good deal, even though he blew CBS out of the water in doing so. And that got Fox on the map because at the time, Rupert owned 22 television stations. And he did a bunch of kind of wacky programming at the time, The Simpsons and the Tracy Ullman Show, Married with Children. And it was sort of the irreverent anti-network that it came out to be. But when Fox came along to buy the NFL, not everybody liked it. And there was a lot of reasons for that. The rights march grew when we got the NHL shortly thereafter. And then the MLB in 2000, we got NASCAR. Funny AI puts a football above NASCAR, but that's what I get for doing some of these in AI. We got the UFC in 2011. I'll come back to that. And in 2015 was our first FIFA World Cup. It was a women's World Cup in Canada. And then we got the Big Ten and started in the Euro. But we did a lot of other things too in terms of getting rights to a variety of other properties that now we are the happy stewards of, including our latest, which is IndyCar. This will be our second go around with IndyCar, our second year of IndyCar, and we actually bought a third of the company in Penske Entertainment. So that is Fox Sports in a nutshell. 10 years ago, we started up our cable networks, Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, basically to get the dual revenue stream of a paying subscriber as well as advertising revenue. Those 2 networks replaced the Speed Channel and Fox Soccer, respectively. But we'll get back into that as well. But what I'm really here to talk to you about isn't necessarily rights and isn't necessarily the overall kind of landscape of sports media, although I could go on about that quite a bit. It's to talk about the way that shows are produced, both how we used to do it and how we're doing it now and how we're going to do it. And I think that this is something that always attracted me to the business in terms of being interested in, how they did certain things, and they being the sports broadcasting people in general. But even before I started work for Fox, and I was working at HBO doing boxing at the time, I really admired how they did it. They had a real over the head kind of feel. And, when I met David Hill, who started the network, and he was a fantastic boss and an amazing mentor and still is, he said something that I'll never forget, and something that I always put in my presentations. And that is, the best live shows feel post-produced. And the key here, I think, is the word feel. Because when David came into this, he felt that the American audience was being underserved by the big three in terms of how they were putting sports on the air. And he set out to change it. And he looked to figure out what ways he could come up with to better tell the story. And you hear a lot of us TV types talk about ourselves being storytellers. And I sort of like that and hate that all at the same time, but I'll probably use the phrase again. So I'll probably come back to it. I'll skip over this slide for a second, because I think this one's interesting. These are sort of the innovations that you guys probably take as, at least a lot of them, as things that have just always been. So when Fox got the NFL, the very first thing David wanted to do is that he hated the fact that you had to wait until a commercial break to see the clock and score. And indeed, that's what the big three were doing. That if you were watching a football game, the conventional logic of the time was that, you know what, make them wait until right after the commercial, and then we'll show them what the score is. Then we'll show them what the time is. And David hated this. So he created something that he had created in Australia, where he was from, called, well, he called it the Fox Box. And the Fox Box is simply the little piece of the little chip that is there that shows you the clock and score. Of course, it does a lot more these days. But do you know that at the time that when David brought this out, and when John Madden explained it for the first time, he was elicited death threats. You know, people telling him to go back home to Australia and deal with sports he could understand, because, you know, David didn't know what Americans wanted. But he was not deterred, and he kept on bringing out idea after idea, and he surrounded himself with people with big ideas. And it wasn't only technology. I mean, you know, he understood that, you know, just because it was a sports program didn't mean it couldn't be entertaining. So the original Fox desk, a lot of it, which is still intact, with Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw, and at the time it was Jimmy Johnson, and James Brown was there as the host. That he wanted it to be entertaining. He didn't want it to take it so seriously. He wanted to do jokes. Jimmy Kimmel got his start on our show. But he felt that there were a number of things that could be improved in Fox. And talking now again about technology, he came up with the glowing puck. And I won't go all of these through line by line, but the next two are the ones that I think deserve some time, because a lot of the things that we see today are very much derive their through line from these two things. And that is the glowing puck. And if I could see you, I would ask for a show of hands as to who remembers the glowing puck. And maybe a lot of you will remember of it. Obviously, 1996 is a long time ago. But what David thought was that the problem with hockey is that you couldn't follow the puck. You couldn't see the actual instrument that people were looking for, especially back then. It was 480i. I mean, it looked like crap, or 480p in our case. So we did the glowing puck, and he spent a massive amount of money trying to figure this out. And there was a guy named Stan Honey who came up with him for him. It ended up going down in history as probably the best bad idea that anybody had ever had. And that's because that the current fans hated it, and the new fans were just okay with it. So it really didn't do its job. So we got rid of it after a time, mainly because of cost basis. But that, and with Stan, begat the next idea, which was, you know what would be really useful? Maybe isn't having pucks glow, but perhaps it's more about being able to see that first down line whenever you can. And at the time, you know, you would have to just take the commentator's word for it, or look for one of the linesmen on the far side to see where it was. but putting the yellow line in is undeniably the golden goose. And long story short, they figured it out. Stan actually left the company and created his own company called Sportvision and did it. And then just by a sheer twist of fate, we were outbid by ESPN and ABC, and they kept it for 2 years exclusively. So it actually debuted on ESPN, not us, but it ended up being an advent of very meaningful proportions. And then you go down the list, and there's a bunch of other things that we can go into, but we won't. But what David saw was that there was a bit of a continuum in technology where you would disrupt something. You would find something that nobody thought you needed, and it looked like crap, and everybody hated it. And then you would get some buy-in on this thing, and then you would scale it to put it into more places, and then you would reinvent it again and then disrupt again. And that's kind of what we've been doing all along. And what it came to was something that he called the unique visual difference, in that this was the thing. And whether it was an element, a technological element, the UVD was the thing that we aspired to. What is there that everybody can't live without? Well, I think we can say the Foxbox was one. The yellow line was one. I think super slow motion technology was one. But the keys, the Venn diagram of a unique visual difference is, can you instantly understand it? And we always said that we elevate ourselves to the bar test. And what the bar test is can you tell what story you're trying to tell if you are sitting at a bar without the sound on? And sorry for those audio guys, we'll get into audio, but that's what a UVD is. It's a unique visual difference. So it's intuitive. You can understand it instantly. It's repeatable. You can do it instantly. It's all well and good to have something amazing that can be good for the Super Bowl, but can't do it for anything else. And is it at some point indispensable? Does it feel less without it? And then at the very middle of that Venn diagram is your UVD. And sometimes we get it right and sometimes we don't. Luckily, David at the time and his successor, a guy named Eric Shanks, our CEO now, aren't people who are afraid to swing and miss. And swing and miss, David did many, many times. Ask Scooter the Animated Baseball, who taught people about the basics of baseball. Ask Digger the Gopher, who was a gopher who lived under the Talladega racetrack and became a camera when he jumped up. So David was not a man to be afraid to swing and miss. But nobody remembers those. Everybody remembers the other stuff, so that's good. So when we talk about what we're doing in terms of technology, we're looking at what the old world was. The old world was broadcasting everything that we see from the outside in. That's hard cameras. That's people on the sidelines. That's microphones that exist on the sidelines. And we're coming in and saying, we want to now broadcast this game from the inside out. This is player cameras. It's the sky cam. It's volumetric video, which we'll talk a little bit about. It's access, right? It's access. You want to hear the athletes as they're talking. You want to bring yourselves into the game. And I think that this paradigm is something that you really see now. And certainly if you watch our Indy coverage, you will see a lion's share of that Indy coverage being done from the in-cars. And we've come up with a few interesting technologies that we'll look at because of that. So, what are sort of these hardwares? Well, we've got the pylon cam. We've got the Megalodon, which elevates the hero shot to a nice shallow depth of field of what we're doing. It's the driver's eye that gives the velocity. Like, one of the biggest problems about motorsports is knowing how, or seeing how fast the cars are. If you've ever seen in motorsports on TV versus what it looks like in real life, that's a big one. Can we create real-time data-driven overlays that you can actually see in perspective? And can we give you some of the underlying information that we have onto the live feed? So we've got some of the examples here here on that slide. Now here, the paradigm shift is that from the outside in to the inside out. We talked about the cameras, the audios become real-time player mics and immersive field soundscapes. We actually put microphones in the field for baseball and things like that. And the aesthetic goal used to be basically just show the audience what they would see if they were sitting in the stands. And one thing that I always laughed about in terms of like people who said that VR was great, virtual reality was great because you could choose whatever camera you had, whatever camera you wanted, never understood that actually the best seat in the house wasn't any seat in the house. It was the fact that you had real professionals telling you what was going on. We were telling the story. So the original aesthetic goal was basically photographic realism. Now, and this is one of my more debatable statements, that we get into video game immersion. What I mean by that is that on the whole, the more you make a sports broadcast look like a video game, the better. And it used to be when video games came out and became photorealistic that the video games would look at broadcast and try to emulate broadcast. Now I say that broadcast looks back at video games to try to make everything look like you can kind of expect in a video game. So yeah, do we borrow from the console all the time? In fact, a lot of the in-car cameras that we've come up with, at least the new ones, are things that, you know, I've thought about or my team's thought about. I mean, I used to play a lot of Forza with my son, and I always thought about some of the impossible camera angles that now are actually completely possible. And we also find out that our audience, you know, you guys, are a lot more adept to getting a lot of information at once. It used to be keep the picture pristine, and you'll see in the World Cup this is pretty true as well, but keep the picture pristine. Don't muddle it up with a bunch of graphics. You'll see that on the World Cup. They're a very traditional broadcaster, HBS, who produces it. But if you look at our IndyCar, if you look at our baseball, you're going to see graphics all over the place, right? The in perspective strike zone, the trails on the ball, the fact that, you know, we can drop names on the top of people. So it's quickly becoming more of a video game. And honestly, I look to video games for all of our inspirations. So I'll just play a video, no sound, according to Evan. This is some drone work we've done here. This is a lot of our in perspective stuff that we've done. Unfortunately, we are not doing the helmet cam. The helmet cam's a real bummer for me, to tell you the truth. We did it for the UFL, and it's just a hard thing to do. We got to bring it back next year. Some more drone work. I mean, look, drones have become, and you've seen them in the Olympics, have become indispensable in terms of what it is. This is some of my favorite in perspective stuff. This is something we came up with for the I'm just gonna actually go back to that for a sec. That this one is one of my favorites because this combines two technologies. It combines the umpire cam, and a worn camera by the umpire, and augmented reality graphics, right? So you can actually see what's coming in. This is another one. This is one that we ripped off right from Formula One. So any Formula One fans, sorry, but actually not sorry, because, you know, I even went to Dean Locke, who's the managing director of FOM, and thanked him very much for this idea, which is the heads-up display. And the heads-up display basically just puts a virtual dashboard on the cars, and it's gotten so much better. The pointers, this is an oldie but goodie, but this was born of NASCAR, where, you know, you can't really see, you know, who's driving and what. We want to make sure that the audience knows who they're actually rooting for. More drone work. This was from the World Series. The MLB has been phenomenal in terms of using drones over players, over people, things like that. We've got some very good drone operators. Here's some more Here's some more USFL. And this is our home run tracker. Again, baseball, just a really good partner in helping us figure some of these things out. But just where, you can have something like this where you have a drone and augmented reality graphics that really tells a story here, right? You can see, wow, that's a 407-foot home run that reached its apex at 109 feet. We could tell you how fast it got out of the park too, if you're interested. This is our first-person view drone. They do this little dance with the car during the burnouts. That was actually very much thanks to COVID. COVID was really important to us because while it was a horrible thing and kept a lot of people out of work for a long time, it allowed us to really work on some cool technologies like drones and whatever. This one's cool. We call this one the Mario Kart. Basically, this is for qualifying. So the car that is the video game car is the one that actually is the pole sitter. So that's Alex Palou. And then Will Power is actually driving, but that's Alex Palou in front of him. This is how he drove the previous thing. So it actually makes qualifying watchable. So this is our driver's eye. I didn't have the most recent clip, but this is a camera that's actually in the driver's helmet. Again, another example of shooting from the inside out and really seeing what a beating these guys take. Obviously, motorsports, one of the only sports that allows you to hear the athletes and the coaches talk full time. We've got the heads-up display on that one now too. This is just a little augmented reality for you. Now we don't have to just put a big old ugly banner in front of you. We can actually put it in the space. We've been using drones for live football coverage as well. That's worked out pretty well, and some more heads-up display stuff and some really cool things that we're playing around with that as well. So I would be remiss in terms of talking about all this technology without talking about AI. And, AI is one of the most, it's performative and cliche to say, but it's one of the most incredible things that we've seen in our industry. And there's some really cool things coming into it. Audio, huge. Realistic, full-time translation, cleaning up the radios. We do that. Generative video. I'm going to show you something in a minute. Production assistance. Can you rough out a cut before you do it? Media asset management. We actually had Google build our media asset management system, meaning that they catalog everything that is in our thing. Extra motion. Basically makes regular motion video into super motion. Cinematic effects, predictive data. What it isn't, it's not taking everybody's jobs. It's not taking everybody's jobs. And I can say that it's actually just going to open up new and exciting opportunities. This one here, again, if you had audio, you would hear Coming to America. And this kind of shows some of the work that let's turn this off. That our team does with mixing in real stuff with generative AI. So now this is Coming to America in AI. So we go and we put the icons of the sport into vehicles coming to America, hence the expensive licensing of the song. And there's so many cool things we've done this with AI and generative AI that I think that our team is some of the best. And this is just kind of the hit you over the head kind of stuff with this kind of thing. But it's helping us in a lot of ways. And I routinely take about 3 or 4 pitches from AI companies on God knows what. And I've got a whole classroom worth of information and thought on that. And I think it's really good in terms of discussion that we can kind of get into. But AI is, in my view, something to really get ahead of. It's the only thing, I think, one of the only things that you can literally get out of school and know more than the people that are going to hire you. And I've seen that happen before. If you were at the media summit, you might have heard a guy named Sam Goodell speak. And, Sam works with a company called Optimum Sports Group, and just learned the tools. And when he was hired by Optimum, he's getting his master's right now. He knew more than anybody. This is a terrible AI picture, and I'm sorry, but this is some other things that are going on in the space. We're literally changing. I'm going to say this industry is changing how we watch sports. There's a company called Cosm, and I put their address up there. They're worth checking out. I think it's actually Cosm Live, come to think of it. So apologies for that. But basically what they've done, they were actually, they bought the biggest planetarium company in the country, and they started building a bunch of brick and mortar theaters. What this is essentially like the Sphere that you've seen, the Sphere in Vegas, but smaller. The Sphere holds about 16,000 people. A Cosm holds about 1,800 people. But what they do is that they basically give you an immersive shared reality that you can step into, sit down. It's like a big sports bar. Jeb, the CEO, hates it when I say, I call it, it's basically a Topgolf mixed with an IMAX. You can go and have drinks with your friends, whatever. They give you a special feed of this immersive live broadcast. It can be football. They're obviously just finishing up a ton of basketball. They've done the Indy 500 in Daytona. They do a lot of UFC. Right now, there's one in LA and there's one in Arlington, Texas. And they're opening up a new one in Detroit, in Atlanta, and really, really exciting. This is also akin to, obviously, Meta and some of the head-worn devices that have had fits and starts for the last, really 50 years. But this is the one where you actually step into the glasses and sit down with your friends. So you basically have that kind of tribal crowd feel without feeling like, you have to sit on glasses. So one of the things that we're really looking forward to and truly excited about is the World Cup. We are the U.S. English language broadcaster. Telemundo is a Spanish language broadcaster for the World Cup. And it's going to be the biggest event that anybody has ever seen ever. And, we always talk about how things are big and how things are unimaginably can't be overstated and everything, but World Cup is that. It is the biggest, the most voluminous. We've got 27 days of matches, multiple matches without a day off. And at the end of the day, we're going to be pulling all these things into our control rooms in LA and doing it there. As I said, we've got a host producer who does the games. What we're responsible for is integrating those games and putting our pre, half, and post. You've probably seen we've done some amazing hires. We've got Zlatan, we've got Thierry Henry, we've got an amazing slate of talent. But at the end of the day, it's my team's job to actually put it on TV. And I think that what we like to say is that our job, my job, everybody who works with me's job is to make the technically complex appear effortless on the screen. And the reason that we do that is because we don't want you guys to think about all this. We sure as shit don't want you to see color bars or hear tone or, have a mistake happen. And that does happen. It's a bit of a batting average. But we are tasked with bringing that home, and we are the stewards this year of the World Cup and can't wait to get it started, Evan. So that is my spiel on
there you go.
Brief history of technology in sports and how things look from my perspective.
I think it looked pretty good. It's funny because you're using the AI. When I created this, my little, I don't know if you saw my images yet, but
yes, I did.
Yeah. No, I don't need to comment on some of them. We'll just go from there.
Yeah, Notebook LM is a powerful tool, but I will tell you that AI is a big part of our world in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I'm using it for other stuff. I'm using it for all sorts of data analysis. I'm coding,
Mhm.
so I buy in for sure. I put some questions down. I'm going to throw them in the chat, but I'll just say them out loud. I interviewed a guy. I think he was the president of the Pittsburgh Knights, and he was an esports organization, and he had a deal with the Steelers and the Pirates. And one of the things he mentioned, and this is going back 5 years, 5 6 years, 2020, 2021, somewhere there. And he mentioned that one of the things that esports really could provide was all the business intelligence of video games and augmented reality, and he could provide that to terrestrial or traditional sports. And even from looking just at your presentation, it's interesting because you're seeing, like you're saying, like make it look like a video game. And so a lot of that tech seems to be going forward. So is there any combination, or you're out in LA, right?
Well,
Are you out?
Virginia today, but I live both
Okay.
places. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any? I know there's some West Coast esports studios. Is there any work that goes on between Fox and some of the gaming outfits?
Well, yes, in one way, and I'll say that probably not in the way that you mean, but basically, Epic Games,
There you
the
go.
maker of
Yeah,
Unreal, is
Yeah.
now the absolute standard for graphics generation for broadcast. So just like everything, so they've taken over. They've hired a bunch of my artists. But in terms of the combination of those things, I think that esports. What they found about esports was this: that it was wildly popular among the people that played video games, and that it was very difficult to evangelize. In other words, like people who play video games watch video games. People who don't play video games don't watch video games. And for that reason, the other thing was that the problem is that while you've got huge things like, man, I pass every day, Riot Games, they've got a huge office on Pico Boulevard. And, you could go out and you could do a deal with Riot, and what's that, League of Legends, right?
Mhm.
And you could do a deal, but what stops another video game with coming up with a whole new thing that all of a sudden makes your 50, 100, $300 million a year investment go away, right?
Right.
So for that reason, we haven't gotten into it too much. But as I said, in the production volume, there's a lot there, and trying to make things interactive. And there's a lot of different ways to make things interactive. You can reward people for loyalty using tokens. You can obviously, we could talk about betting all day long. There's betting. There's predictive, the predictive markets. So I think that that's where you're seeing the synthesis of video games and sports and interactivity in general.
Okay, sweet. Let me read some of the audience questions. We've got what are your thoughts on the new AR alternate broadcasts like the Simpsons NFL game and the recent Inside Out NHL broadcast?
Love it.
More potential to these broadcasts, or are they just silly?
I love this question because I think it is, I didn't say this, but I will, that we don't do technology for technology's sake. And my unpopular opinion is this: that these types of things, and they've done some amazing things, and I'm friends with the guys. It's a company called Beyond Sport that has actually been bought by a derivative of Sony. This great guy named Sander Alton. And they do all this stuff, and they do it by tracking limbs, and they basically make it a 3D environment in Unreal. And the thing is, I think that as a technical flex, I think it's fantastic to look at it. However, the real reason that they're doing it is to appease the leagues, and that just saying that just because we want to get the younger audiences into that. That's always what they say, right? Get the younger audiences into broadcast. But, I don't know. And it would be interesting. I challenge one of your students to do their thesis on figuring out if that's actually true, because we can actually test that now, because it's been around long enough that if somebody's seen one of these things 6 years ago, well, they should be huge fans of that sport by now, right? So I think that there's going to be lots more of this stuff. I just don't know if on that continuum that I read, is it repeatable? Is it something that you're going to do every game, or does it exist as a special? I'm not sure. And maybe it's just me being sour grapes because I actually don't have any products I can do that with. But, myself, I'm probably not as bullish on this as others are.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, I'm just laughing because you might be under the impression that I'm having them write a thesis for this class. They are not. Maybe a different class.
You can write a thesis for extra credit.
I think the master's degree is the bare minimum for that. We'll see, or a different structure to my class, which is a little bit. They know. All right, let's move on. We got how do you deal with ideas that end up becoming a failure in practice?
Awesome. Wow, great questions today. So the answer is that you must always be prepared to fail and come up with a crappy idea that doesn't work. I'll give you one idea that we had that we thought was really smart. We thought that the way that motorsports was done, there was always a crawl above the screen like this, or there's a crawl below the screen like this. And we said, wouldn't it make more sense to put everything on a pylon so then you could see like all of it? And I think Formula One may have been doing it that time, or maybe nobody was doing it. But the thought was, if you do that, then you could see everything. The argument against it was that, well, now you're blocking off a third of the screen. And when we did it, it was awful. We had a lot of complaints. Obviously you go to Twitter to find out how mortal you are, and Twitter just absolutely assailed us. So, at the time, management said, fuck it, we'll go back. Everybody hates it, we'll go back. And we went back and we did that came up with some bastardized version of it, which was basically 3 lines on the bottom. And it looked like Bloomberg down there. And we said, well, that's even worse. So what we did is we ended up doing it again and leaving it there. And then what happened is that everybody got used to it. And then we were able to do more stuff with it, and it ended up improving the broadcast. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes you have ideas that were just terrible from the outset. I got one. We did Harry Carey. We had Harry Carey return to the Field of Dreams. The second time we did Field of Dreams. And
you might need to even explain the Harry Carey.
Well, Harry Carey was a very famous broadcaster for the Chicago Cubs, and look him up. And Will Ferrell does an amazing bit with Harry Carey. He was a phenomenal broadcaster and an even more phenomenal drinker. He liked to drinker too. And in the 7th inning stretch, he would go and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So we thought, where else but at the Field of Dreams could we bring back Harry Carey to sing the national, or the "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? And we got the rights from his estate, and we did all the things and whatever, and we did it, and it actually didn't even look that bad. You can see it, you can look it up on YouTube, and you can make it up. You make up your own mind. I actually don't think it was as bad as they said, but if you go back and you read some of those Twitter things, it was horrible. So I think that might have been one of those ones that we might have whiffed on. But for the most part, you got to shrug it off and take what you learn and move it into the next. But remember that one person's bad idea in 1996 may be somebody's awesome idea in 2026, and to that end, I am testing the glowing football. I'm not even crapping you there. Like, we literally have the glowing football. It works, and you may see it on the UFL this season.
Interesting. Is it I think you might have mentioned this before, but we can confirm here. Do you test a lot of the technologies in the alt football leagues, XFL, USFL, or whatever? I guess there's no USFL.
It's just UFL now.
UFL, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have smaller leagues that you can test this stuff in. And then we don't test stuff very much in the NFL, but with the UFL and college basketball, there's plenty of things to test things on. But
you test it, and then if it's good, then they can make the jump. Maybe the NFL.
Then they graduate. Right. I'll tell you one thing that's graduated that we actually came up with, and the NFL took credit for, was the virtual first down, or I should say, automated first down. So where you see it, where they basically spot the ball, and then they basically either ask for a ruling or whatever. That's something that actually started in the USFL. We came up with it with Bolt 6, and they're doing it now in the NFL. So that's one that graduated from spring football all the way up to. But just like our players, they took that with no credit or no payment.
Got it. Okay, well let's get a few more of these in. I don't know how much time you have or where we're at with the.
I got another 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. Quick one then. What do you think about Prime Video using AWS during Thursday Night Football to show real-time probabilities and stats? Do you think Fox would adopt doing something like that in the future?
I mean, maybe. I mean, it just depends on what for, right? And if you've got an audience for that kind of thing, then sure, why not? I mean, the probability stats are getting better and better. You'll actually hear us use. I mean, there's a lot of analysts out there that like probability now, so they like to work it into their shtick. You know, whether it's real time. I mean, AWS can do that. I'm actually surprised they're not doing more. But you know, I think that probability is something that's here to stay, and that we will absolutely use it. You just want to find the things that make sense. Like, you know, you say, well, what's the probability of so and so scoring a touchdown within the first 5 minutes? You say, okay, well, maybe that's interesting to somebody, but does it really inform you in terms of the game? I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll tie it into one last question that they're sort of related. How do you balance it with what's enhancing a game from what's distracting? Because that is something I think about too. I mean, you can't turn the whole thing into a giant data screen. You keep getting all these advances. Yeah. What do you think?
It's something we really worry about. I mean, like I said, we don't want to do technology for technology's sake. We don't want to litter the screen. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, that was one of the indictments of the Fox box back then, is you get this thing on the screen the whole time. Like, I just want to see my game, get it off, you know, that kind of thing. That's what they used to say about the strike zone, right? Like, you know, people were actually against the full-time strike zone.
Right.
You know, we make it like super subtle. Like you'll see like the way, you know, Turner does it and ESPN does it and MLB Network does it versus where we do it. You see ours is like super, super light for exactly that reason. And, you know, the formula, guys, is wonderfully unscientific. And, you know, an idea starts with, you know, wow, you know, wouldn't it be cool if ... Mm-hmm. And it ends with us basically looking at it and say, you know what, that looks pretty cool. Why? Because we feel fans first, and we love the sports that we do. So, you know, we don't want to piss our audience off. But at the same time, we don't want to listen to the loudest voice either. So, you know, you take the good with the bad, but it's a very unscientific problem, Evan. Sweet.
Well, listen, this has been, I think, all in all, pretty effective. The Substack move has gone, I think, pretty well. I think it's we got good. The questions are on the right, at least on my end. It's definitely good because it's a nice organization.
No, it's been great, and you know, you guys find me on LinkedIn. If there's there's a question that you were dying to ask, just send it to me. I have a little handout that I'll send over to Evan that you can do it. I'll just give a quick shout out to anybody who is interested in sports technology, careers in sports, and the sports business in general. Two big publications that I would read. First of all, Gonzo Sports by Evan Rowe. Second is the Sports Video Group. That's sportsvideo.org. They are a group that I happen to chair, but it's a wealth of knowledge in terms of what's going on in the live sports industry. And then the other one is, if you want to shell out some money and you don't mind if you're just an absolute sports geek nut. Oh, Substack, Andrew Marchand. He's an awesome read, fantastic read. Mike Mulvihill, another one. Finally, Puck. If Puck is a fantastic read, it's worth $100 a year. There's a guy named John Oran that's phenomenal. So those are my that's my required reading for extra credit.
Sweet. What were the two last names you gave for the Substacks? So I'll just type those out.
So it's Andrew Marchand, and then it's Marchand. Yep, he used to write for the New York Post. And then I don't think Mulvihill probably doesn't do his Substack anymore, but he's a great Twitter follow. Okay. He's more about like research. Like if you're interested in like who's watching what, Mike Mulvihill is a hell of a follow.
And then I'm trying to spell these, I'm not sure. Mulvihill. What's that? I'm trying to spell these, I'm not sure.
Mulvihill, Mulvi.
I'll Google them after.
It'll be in my handout.
Okay, there you go. That'll work.
Yeah, it'll be in my handout. You guys all get it. I'll send it over tomorrow. Good. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. And again, please, if I didn't get to your question, either send it to Evan or follow me, and then contact me on LinkedIn and send it to me. I'm happy to connect with any of you guys, and love to stay in touch. Yeah, that's it.
All right, sweet. All right, thanks, Mike Davis. See you later.
All right, so long, guys.
I'll be in
Thanks
touch
for having
later.
me.
Yep.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody else. Adios.